Hey folks, just a quick word about deeds and your first assignment for our class. Deeds are a legal instrument by which title to property changes hands. They're an ancient form of property conveyance, and if you're interested, you can find deeds in the historical records of various counties in the United States, some dating back to the 1600s, and of course, even older ones in Britain. Deeds come with a lot of A, different names, and B, different verbiage. What I describe in this essentials section is the three most common types of deeds used in residential real estate transactions in the United States. The general warranty deed, or simply called the warranty deed, the special or limited warranty deed, and the quitclaim deed. But keep in mind, there's nothing magic about those names. What matters is what the deeds do. Before I delve into what they do, I want to mention that you'll hear of other types of deeds in use in various places in the United States. Some of you will be familiar with the trustee's deed, or also called the deed of trust. That deed is used in a slightly different way than we mean here, and I'll explain what that is in just a moment. But the general warranty deed is by far the most common type of deed used in the United States, and one of the most ancient. The general warranty deed serves two purposes. One, it conveys an interest in property from one party to another, obviously. But the other is, as part of that conveyance, the seller is making enforceable promises about the state of title to the property to the buyer. Those promises are generally known as the 6 covenants and warranties, or more commonly, I think, just the 6 covenants. It is said that 3 of the covenants are present covenants. And you'll see a Latin term used a lot for that, in presenti, but that's of no importance. The 3 present covenants warrant that at the moment of the sale, the seller owns the property in fee simple up until that moment of conveyance, that she has the right to convey it, and that she is able to convey it free of encumbrances, which you learned about when we talked about marketable title also this week. Those are the 3 present covenants. There are also what are called 3 future covenants. And those are that in the future, if necessary, the seller will take whatever steps are required to perfect the buyer's title, if some steps become necessary, such as executing documents or other actions. That the buyer won't be disturbed in their enjoyment of the property by somebody who claims to have better title to the property than the buyer. This covenant has been interpreted to mean that nobody with a meritorious claim of superior title will disturb the buyer in their use and enjoyment of the property. And finally, that if, however, there is such a person, and they do successfully assert such a claim, then the seller will be liable to the buyer for the losses incurred by the buyer. All right, that's the general warranty deed. The special or limited warranty deed essentially makes the same claims, but only with regard to the period of the seller's ownership of the property. The seller is saying, during my ownership of this property, I owned it in fee simple and still do, and no competing claims or interests have arisen, and therefore nobody will disturb you in the enjoyment of your property because of an interest that arose during my period of ownership. And then finally, we have the quitclaim deed. Quitclaim deed is also very common, and the quitclaim deed warrants nothing about the state of title. It simply says, I, seller, to whatever extent I have any interest in this property, and I may have none, convey it to you. Quitclaim deeds are very useful instruments for things like divorce settlements between spouses, minor boundary ambiguities between neighbors, and recently, following the foreclosure crisis in the United States. It's important to remember that deeds act as a form of title assurance or not, depending on which form is chosen. And in doing that, deeds allocate risk between buyers and sellers. With a general warranty deed, the seller is taking on to themselves all risk with regard to the state of title being conveyed to the buyer. With a quitclaim deed, the buyer assumes all risk because the seller guarantees nothing. And of course, the special or limited warranty deed is in the middle between the two. The deed of trust, which we're not focusing on, but just to touch all the bases here, is used in some states where the legal theory regarding purchasing property with funds provided by a lender is that the property is not fully purchased by the buyer until the loan is completely paid off. That's sometimes referred to as the title theory of mortgages, as opposed to the lien theory of mortgages, in which it's assumed that the buyer takes title to the property and that the property is subject to the lender's lien through the mortgage. A deed of trust places the deed in the care of a third-party trustee, sometimes also known as an escrow agent, who holds the deed in trust while the property owner pays off the loan. If the property owner successfully pays off the loan, the deed is released from the trust and given to the owner. If the property owner defaults on the loan, the deed is released from the trust and given to the lender. The assignment this week is for you to write a letter to a client who is on the verge of purchasing a property and, like most clients, doesn't understand the import of the use of different types of deeds as instruments of conveyance. And your job is simply to explain, in particular, the difference between a warranty deed and a quitclaim deed. The assignment is being assigned this week, week 3, but is not due until the last day of week 4, so that you have plenty of time to work on it. You'll be working on this assignment individually rather than in a group, and hopefully you'll find it pretty straightforward.